Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. And today I'm joined by the one and only JK Fitness. Now, if you
Apparently.
don't
Hey,
know
Joey.
Julia by now, this is probably the third episode that we've recorded together, right?
True. And it's
So make
getting
sure
more and more exciting.
so make sure you go back and listen. What I'll do is I'll pop the links to the previous episodes in the description at the bottom. But today we wanted to go back and tackle again strength training mistakes 2.0. So I'm going to just jump straight in. Last time we touched a little bit on about how like the lack of knowledge and the lack of goal setting is kind of like the key factor behind the strength training mistakes that we see. So I kind of wanted to put it to you, Julia, and ask about how you set goals for yourself and also how you set goals for your clients and how that kind of correlates with mistakes that you see or don't see.
Sure. Thank you for having me, first of all, for the third time. It can't be that bad if I'm re-invited. Yeah, love it. Funny you actually saying and starting from goal setting, because I've been thinking of recording my own episode of my own podcast about it, how important goal setting is in running the vision and driving the progress and keeping the mojo up. So many people talk very vaguely about their goals, and the more specific you are, I believe, the better. It comes with a little bit of pressure, but that pressure, I believe, is absolutely necessary to keep yourself in check and to fully lock in for a certain period of time. So goal setting for me needs to be smart goal setting. So goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And that becomes so true in fitness, in business, and probably in relationships as well, in life in general. How I do that, how I set my own goals. Um, First, I start vaguely. Do I want to shrink or do I want to grow? Do I want to focus on aesthetics or do I want to go for performance? And probably both will overlap, aesthetics and performance, but I need to be very rigid as to which direction to go, because I speak to so many women that want to tone, grow glutes, and also run faster. And those three goals are so far away from each other that it will be hard to pick every variable for each of those goals. So one has to take the priority, and that's where I would be starting. Then I will be thinking what's realistic in what time space and time frame that I know I can lock in for, and then we just roll. But obviously, the more specific you go, the better. That's what I do with my clients. We start vague. We at least know which direction we're going. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important as well. Like lots of people that I speak to, again, like the guys that come to me will use words like they want to tone up or they want to get abs. And it's kind of, well, for you, is that we're needing to gain size or is that we're needing to lose size? Again, it's that kind of, you're looking at this two-way direction first to then kind of filter into this funnel to kind of avoid mistakes. Because I think strength training specifically as well, like if you, when you're saying that you want to grow your glutes, but you also want to run, I get that all the time. And also same, like, I want that.
Who doesn't? Yeah.
Like it's one of those things, isn't it, where you have to, again, like you said, prioritize things. So it's looking at what is on the like the list of priorities essentially, and kind of letting these other things not fall by the wayside, but having them kind of play second play to this overall goal, essentially.
Oh, totally. Like I see fitness very holistically. I still do my Muay Thai pads, but they don't take over now. I am fully locked in now, actually, in the growth phase. I've just started a solid bulk. It's funny because I knew that it's gonna take over quite a lot of areas of my life, but like being very consistent with food and knowing that I can lock in the next, and that's also very important, 6 months. Ladies, gentlemen, it's not 1, 2 months and then we trim. It doesn't work this way. It takes time to see the difference, because I see so many people, jumping into the growth phase, not sticking for long enough. And then again, just the moment that they see a little bit more fluff, because this is unavoidable, but it can be minimized absolutely if you have the right macros ratio. and if you've done the right intensity and volume of your training, then they just pop out because they say, oh, I've lost my abs. Okay, let's go back to cutting. And that way you're spinning the wheels and you're never going to achieve any goal that will be satisfactory. And after you start cutting, you realize, shit, there is not that much muscle actually to reveal. Do you find it with your clients?
Yeah, I think that's really like common with just in general, like this, you have these goals, but sometimes you don't realize that you have to maybe sacrifice something else to achieve the goal in the end phase. And especially with like the guys I work with, and again, myself, like abs is such a big thing, like having abs, everyone wants to have abs, but then at the same time, people want to grow their chest or grow their glutes and their arms. And at one point you kind of have to lose the abs a little bit to gain these things. Like, not, I'm saying get rid of them completely and just go on like a full on, I'm not really you have a different school of thought, I'm sure. I'm not really like a big bulk person for me personally, and for my clients, because we're not doing that kind of training. Do you know what I mean? We're not doing that kind of, we want to get massive, we're gonna like look like XYZ. It's more about gradual bulks for us guys. So I guess it's a different school of thought. But it is again about like having these things kind of fall by the wayside. And I think what you said about training and bulks as well also affects like mistakes that I see with actual physical training. Like nutrition and training go hand in hand, obviously, as we know. But what I see lots of people doing is not fueling for a session, and then not having the strength even to be able to actually do the correct technique. Do you a lot of your
I had another thought, when you talk about not doing the bulk in a proper way, what does it even mean? We have to differentiate, because there's two terms that circulate the social media and the fitness world: the dirty bulk and the lean bulk. I am definitely not a fan of the dirty bulk, and this is where people go wrong. And especially for women, my community, it is so detrimental to that decision that they actually, I would encourage them to, but obviously I always lean into what client tells me, and I can only guide, I can give my advice and my input and stance on it. But women are scared of bulking because they see those massive boys that are actually fat. And let's be honest, because this is dirty bulk, and this is done totally incorrectly. Bodybuilders don't do it this way. People that are kind of knowing that they can eat more calories, they go crazy with whatever the macro that they see around them. And it rarely ever is free for all. Yes, we can have an occasional cheat meal, we can have more calories, but it's still eating predominantly clean and whole foods. Still 80-20 rule applies, just in a bigger amount of certain macros, like more carbs, more protein. Fats remain normally low, and this is what prevents you from going into that dirty bulk. And also, funny thing, when you said physical activity, obviously other areas of fitness will be affected. I already see I'm a little bit slower in my Muay Thai pad, so I'm completely coming to terms with it, that this is not going to be my priority. I do keep it for fitness and mental health and sanity, and obviously to minimize that fat gain, but it will undeniably happen. But at the end of the day, you have to identify what's your biggest kind of pain, where it sits, and why it's so important, and just let go all the other things that come probably after that first phase of the actual goal that matters most to you.
Yeah, I think as well on that, I was going to ask this question, but you just answered it.
Which one? What was it? Am I reading your mind?
Mindset thing, isn't it? Like, we always get in these phases of like, right, this is what I want to do to achieve it. But then once you're on the way, like, it's the same. What's the saying when they're like, it gets worse before it gets better? And in some cases when you're trying
it. Yes.
But it's so hard. I was going to say, to like reframe your brain to think that, because when you're in the thick of it, you just think, oh, it's easier just to go back to cutting or go back to how I was before and kind of like skip this bit. It's all about reminding yourself why you are doing what you're doing and what you want to achieve, and like the reasons behind wanting to achieve it, as opposed to just being like, again, like you said, spinning. I hate saying this, spinning the wheels of my FM, because I just
I say it a lot. You hate that? I'm gonna annoy you probably a couple more times today then.
But it's true though, right? Like you get
You
inside like a
spin the
hamster wheel.
wheels. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
hamster, back and forth, back and forth. And trust me, I'm telling you from my own experience, regardless of how long I've been a coach, and it's been 11 years. And before that, I've done different sports. Like, if it wasn't for coaches that actually pushed me, at least in the past, to that particular pathway, like, you have to, like you said, it is worse, but it gets better. And it's like sitting in the discomfort for a while to reap the benefits of that. And it's like, we obviously talking about another level of commitment, because to so many people that are just beginning the journey, the discomfort is purely taking that first step in investing in a coach and doing something on a consistent basis. But once you're in the game, you see that things are not achievable that easily, and there is more discomfort ahead. Sorry guys, but it's true. But then that's the beauty. That's why you need to fall in love with the process, not with the goal. What do you think?
It's true. No, I agree. And like one of the things that like with this whole process is you have to find enjoyment in it. And if it was easy, right, you wouldn't look out for a coach, or you wouldn't reach out for help or listen to this podcast. Do you know what I mean? If things were easy, we'd all be doing it. We'd all be like bodybuilders, jacked, Mr. Olympia. Do you know what I mean? Like these things
I don't
aren't
know if we want that. But like a
but
fitness, athletic, nice, functional look. Yeah, with the six pack and big glutes, right? And boys with big chests. But we'd also like big chests. Just maybe not pure muscle, you know? Yeah.
you mentioned like before we started recording, Julia, about you going for like more glute training. And I am like, I love glute training. Glute training is one of the things for me is like my favorite thing to train, my favorite thing to like research, learn more about. So on that, mistake wise that you see with people training glutes, something for me that I see all the time is those hyper reverses. So I call like glute raises.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Is it hyper extensions on the bench,
Yes.
head down? And yeah, what about them? Do you mean
So
exercise selection mistakes or
yeah,
form?
so something I see all the time is boys doing them. And there's obviously there's two ways to do it, just to clarify to everyone listening. There's the way you can do it for your back, so back extensions, or there's ways to do it so it's more glute and hamstring focus. And I see so many guys being like, I'm doing it for glutes or at the end of a leg day, and they're swinging up, arching their back.
And they
And
do it
really
for
like you
the
can just
back. Mm.
exactly. And I think it's one of these things where it's just a tiny little tweak. So again, I explain, if you bring your chin onto your chest, if you lean forward, you create that arch shape in your spine. You're taking all that pressure out of your spine and putting it into your hamstrings and your glutes. On that frame, is there anything like glute training wise that you see that you're like,
Yeah,
big
and also
mistake?
range of motion for that particular one in hyperextensions matters. So your shoulders should kind of align with the hips, and you shouldn't be going much further. And that spinal rounding comes only in thoracic spine to prevent lower back taking over. But immediately when you said that, and form and those little bits and bobs that matter so much for glute training is Bulgarian split squats. So the lovely Eastern friends, I see boys. Firstly, boys it predominantly, but I do see women struggling with this as well. Firstly, with glute training, we need to focus a lot on the hip hinge movement. And with Bulgarians, what I see mostly with boys in particular, but again, women struggle with that as well. But girls, we've been like programmed how to do them for butts because it's such a staple exercise. The boys like keep their torso very upright, and very often do they allow the knee crossing the ankle. So the focus is purely on, well, maybe not purely, but predominantly on quads. Your glutes, hamstrings still participate, but not to that extent as they would be if your torso was a little bit leaning forward, like a 30-degree angle. And obviously that hip drive, so driving, sitting back towards the bench. That's another one. Form is important as much as probably the exercise selection, because I see also people doing squats for glutes. It's not actually scientifically, it's been checked, it's been measured. It's not the most optimal exercise for glute growth. It's again quads predominantly. What do you think about that? About squats?
No, the Bulgarians as well, and the squats, we'll get to that. But I'm glad you mentioned the Bulgarians, because I had this exact conversation with my friend literally last week about this. Because he was like, "Why are you leaning forwards? Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you
Girls
leaning
do
forwards?"
that. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. It's like, you need to be more upright. I'm like, no, I'm so adamant. I was like, right, no. I was like, try it now. Let's do a little experiment. Let's see
Yeah.
where you feel it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a tiny little change that makes such a big difference in where you are physically feeling it. Like you said, if you're more upright, it's going to be more quads. If you lean forward slightly, you get that you get such a deeper stretch in your glutes and your hamstrings. You get so much more activation, and then you're able to do the hip hinge and shove your hips forwards when you stand up,
Yeah.
as opposed
Yeah.
to having.
And another one is that knee drive. Like, it's okay when we do a squatting pattern for quad dominance, but that alignment between the knee and the ankle needs to be perfect. So your shin is vertically angled, and that is gonna force you to drive the hips back. It will make space for the hip hinge, which is so crucial. And also, that could be achieved in a classic squat, but we could make a classic squat more glute dominant through that, keeping that knee ankle alignment, driving hips back, and not going for that depth, the same depth that requires that hip flexor working so much, and then activating quads more than the actual glutes.
Because realistically as well, like, most people do have tight hip flexors, because we all sit down for work, we're all traveling. Like, it's just a thing that most people have nowadays. So when you're doing exercises like that and not like releasing the hip flexors or activating your glutes and your hamstrings before doing it, you are essentially just gripping with your hips and working your quads. And then
Yeah.
doing with
Yeah.
your glutes.
Very important that you're mentioning activation, mobility, warm up. How important is that? Maybe we should talk about a little bit about that, because I've had clients that have been not beginners at all, but they've never done a warm up that didn't include a treadmill run. And then they would go straight from the treadmill to the exercise with the workload. So this screams injury. So why don't we maybe mention that, for safety?
Let's unpack, because I think lots of people do think that going on a run is warm up. And I don't know where this school of thought comes from, because in my head, you need to
Middle
warm up for a run.
Maybe.
It's true, like, you need to warm up for the run. Like, it's just the same as you would warm up for anything else. So why would you then use the run as a warm up? In my head, doesn't make sense. But like you say, it's warm ups are such an important part of your training, and I think it's really important to adapt to warm up to your session. So for instance, like we're saying here, if we're looking at glute training, if we're going into a session where I know that I'm quite quad dominant, as most people are nowadays, like I said, with your hips being going into a glute session, I know that I maybe need to stretch my hips, maybe need to foam roll out my quads a little bit and do some glute activation exercises like bridges, fire hydrants, getting out a resistance band, and kind of just priming your body basically for what you're about to do. I don't know what you would do necessarily, like if you have a set warm up, or if you kind of go with what you're feeling day to day, or have like a scope your clients.
There is definitely a stable mobility drills that I do before every leg session. My leg sessions are glute dominant, but I train legs 3 times. So glutes are always somewhere in those workouts. Sometimes it will be a little bit of quads as well, and sometimes hamstrings, but hamstrings anyway will work with glutes quite hand in hand. So I always make sure to do a runner stretch, like a half kneeling hip opener for the hamstring as well, and for the hip flexor. So if you can just picture this, one knee is on the floor, one foot is flat forward, and we just sit back, chest down, and that targets the front hamstring. And then we lift the chest forward and push the hips forward, chest up and hips forward, and that targets the back quad. So you have kind of hitting, two, exactly, in one stretch. Then you obviously swap the stance. So these swings of all kinds, standing, but also lower back mobility. We need to do those windscreen wipers. And you mentioned also something that most people, if they do any mobility drills, there will be those that I've just mentioned. But most people forget about the foam rolling. Like, if your hips are tight, if you're sitting in the office for 9 hours, because most of your lunch breaks are still in front of the desk, you should be rolling just to release myofascially that soft tissue. And it could be hip flexors just on their own, quads, IT band, hamstrings, glutes. Like, this is super, super important. People skip like, I don't have time for it. If I had to choose, I would spend 10 minutes on that and chop one set from 1 or 2 exercises, because it's just safety. It's smart, mature lifting.
Exactly. I think if we touch on the foam rollers thing, like I could go on about them honestly for hours. So as I used to have a dance background, I used to dance. I have a dance background, and then we went through a phase where they literally banned foam rollers. So there was a big article, and they like took all our
In
foam
your
rollers.
particular school or back in the day?
It was in my particular school and a few other schools as well. But the reasoning behind it is that people substitute stretching with foam rolling.
Okay.
So I really want to be clear with the difference here of what we use the foam roller for. So foam roller, as Julia just said, you're using it kind of as a mobility tool, as a way to kind of start the workout. You can use them at the ends of a workout as well, but I would never replace like conventional stretching with a foam roller personally for me.
So one more
why
thing, I'll butt in. Stretching, foam rolling, and mobility. 3 different things. Stretching, what you're referring to at the end of the session. Mobility, what I've just talked about, those active dynamic drills at the beginning, together with the foam roller. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. You've covered it for me, Julie.
Sorry, I'm butting in. That's me all over the
that's
place. Yeah.
Know how important it is. Like, people do, the 3 become 1, essentially. People mistake them as 1 all the time. And it's easy to see why, because they are quite similar looking from an outside eye. And it's about just knowing like the little nuances between each one and getting them in the right places in your workout to be optimal, as opposed to just, oh, I'm doing this, I'm rolling on the floor now because this is what I've been told to do.
But they do static stretches, holds. Like, let's say that one is really great for your lat, your mid-delt, and they just do it before the session. Like, this is not good, because you're stretching the muscle that's going to be contracting in a second. So you're kind of contradicting what it's going to be doing, that pathway. But also, you're not really warming it up. It's about movement, going through the natural range of motion. That's what mobility does. Before it starts doing the same under the load. So we also should be imitating the patterns that we're going to be using. And that's why warm-up sets with some light resistance are key as well, especially for more advanced lifters, even intermediate, I believe. But for anyone that lifts a little bit heavier, I can't imagine, I see it a lot, boys going straight from the door, 100-kilo chest press. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You're screaming for an injury.
It's like exactly that. And I think there's a period where you can do that, again, depending on age and like level ability in the gym, where people can kind of get away with just
your body will forgive you, but won't forget, you know?
Exactly. So it is really important to incorporate these things. We touched on it a little bit a minute ago as well about hinging and hip hinging. I personally think that is one of the most underrated technical points that people have in their strength training. I don't know if there's anything that you would pick up on for you again that you think is a really underrated technical point that people make that kind of filters throughout all their strength training.
Do you know what? Hip hinge is a difficult movement pattern, and it's hard to envisage because we're talking about the posterior chain, which we don't see unless, and people are funny around mirrors, you know, especially when they are not confident in how they look and they just start their journey, or they're also not confident how they move. They avoid looking in the mirrors, but they are there not just for the vain boys to do the biceps curls and pose, and not for the girls to pout and do their hip or glute picture, but they are literally to control your movement better. Like, once you see what you do, it's easier to control. And that hip hinge movement is basically moving your hips back while going a little bit more diagonal, leaning forward with the torso. So apart from that, that comes very handy for all lifting, but especially for those bent over positions like deadlift, bent over rows, would be core engagement. So what does that mean to engage the core? I see so many mistakes, and people avoid RDLs, for example, for the very same reason that it hurt my back. But it's really something to do with your back. Like your back is okay. Your form and your core engagement must be wrong. Your movement pattern is wrong. Maybe the load is too high, but then let's start on an empty bar or even empty-handed. Core engagement, how do you feel this sits like with your clients? Like, do you pay a lot of attention to this and teaching? Yeah.
Yeah, they'll laugh at this because we go on about it all the time. I want to go. I'll
And
answer that quickly in a second.
anything, by the way, it's even how you stand on the queuing for your, I don't know, sandwich from Tesco. Hopefully people don't do that too much.
There, Julia, what you're up to today.
Yeah. But yeah, literally how we walk, it's also called racing. Yeah, should be involved there.
Exactly. And running as well, obviously the same. But if we go back a minute to the mirrors, I have a big thing about mirrors. Again, I don't know if this is because of like a dance background that I have, but it's about using the mirrors like you said. But then once you've got them, ditch them. I think as soon as you can lose the mirror, in my opinion, is better because you see like I can't demonstrate now because we're on an audio medium, but you see people and they're like lifting their chin like this because they're trying to look at themselves, or that and over rowing and they're like cocking their head because they're trying to catch themselves in the mirror. And I people constantly corrections that I give my clients, and I see people just doing in the gym, is that people forget that their spine ends here. Your spine isn't ending back down here. It goes all the way up to the top of your head. So by you doing this in a deadlift, you're going to hurt yourself. And I think we have like the two like schools of thought. Obviously, we work with very different clients. Some are in one camp where it has to be looking at the mirror the whole time because they want to get it right, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're using it as a tool to get it right, like we said. And then there's the other school of thought where they don't look at all.
Yeah, as always, middle ground.
Right.
And you know, like I am not a fan of looking straight the whole time throughout every rep in the whole set, but the setup and the movement pattern, and that's why those warm-up sets come handy, because the load is small. So obviously our spine is made, cervical spine, our neck is made to rotate. So this is safe, but obviously not under the load, not the whole set when exertions get higher. But like in the warm-up set, when we learn how to core brace, how to hip hinge, how to whatever, tack something else like elbows in or protract, retract shoulders, stuff like this. This is very important. Like the awareness of your own body comes with observing it. And it's, we are 70% of people are visuals. So it is important for me. Like, why do you think you had those mirrors in the ballet classes or whatever dance you were doing?
Well, this is the thing. So we'd have the mirrors for like so if we're looking at school, dance school, I mean in term. So the first like 1 or 2 weeks you'd have the mirrors, and then the mirrors would be gone. They'd be gone because you, like you say, you're visualizing it. You've gone, right, okay, I'm now seeing myself in this alignment. It feels like, how does it feel in my body to be in this alignment? Now I'm going to try and do the alignment without looking. Is it right? I can check and then go back, which is why I think is, again, filming yourself is such an important thing. Because if you go, as well, the mirrors lie, let's be honest, like mirrors are warped, mirrors are right. So if you prop your phone up, as like uncomfortable as it might be for someone, just from the side, you do your deadlift or your hinge or your whatever you're doing, film it, watch it back. It's so much more reliable and accurate data to look at, as opposed to, again, cramming your head when you're doing your like 100-kilogram deadlifts. Because
and you also apply, while looking in the mirror, you apply your own emotions and kind of you filter through how you perceive yourself. Whereas when you look at the video, it's like more detached from your emotions, like it's black and white. What the hell is this arch doing there? It shouldn't be there. And the same applies to me, an experienced lifter. Sometimes I feel it's great, but I'm going heavier than ever. I actually want to see that set. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's that there are some minor mistakes. I do catch myself on the video, but otherwise it felt actually it was all right. But then you know, it happens that we are obviously focused so much into what's happening with the body that we are sometimes unable to judge. And that said, that video would prevent me from going to the next set with the same load. So I say, okay, it's not the time yet. We regress, we strip down a little bit, and we go back to the weight that sits comfortably, maybe pushing for more reps. Yeah, very useful.
Yeah.
I use it with clients a lot. I ask them to record themselves, and that's also part of overcoming gym intimidation and confidence issues. It's like, who cares? And in the videos, it comes very clearly that people don't watch. People actually don't watch. Yeah.
If anything, people normally walk into your camera.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. They don't even see a massive tripod. Like, who cares? Yeah, it might happen that in some gyms, yeah, they are a bit more picky. But if people know that you're not, doing it for Instagram reasons, like, we're probably in a worse position because it's our work to actually share videos from our work, from the gym floors, and we record for those reasons. But if people see that you do it for the fun or for your coach to see, they actually appreciate it, like they have respect. Wow, that's great.
I think it's to highlight that it's not a vain thing to film yourself
Not
in
at
these
all.
situations. We're doing it to correct ourselves, to better ourselves. So it's not a vain thing. I think it depends person to person, maybe even generation, age-wise. People think that like taking pictures and filming themselves is a vain thing. I don't know why I have this all the time with people like, oh, I don't want to film myself because it just is a bit self-obsessed. It might be, but it's helping you, right? It's benefiting what you're doing. So I think it's kind of switching, again, this gym intimidation thing of, oh, people are looking at me because I'm filming. No one is. Like,
yeah,
one
and those
person.
videos do confirm that people actually are not there, but they will just give you a glimpse and then they go back to whatever they are doing.
Yeah, normally it's to make sure that they're not in it.
Yeah, obviously, like not very straight in their face. But with that vanity thing, probably going too deep because it was supposed to be a strength chat. But we at least there's a proof. We don't stage it, we don't plan it. We don't know how we're going to run those convos, and I think it's the best way. But with vanity, another thing came to my mind when it comes to psychology. If you feel like taking pictures and recording yourself, you find someone vain, maybe it's more a question of how you see confidence, and like it might be a little projection of what actually you don't have yet. Because I promise you that my girls, when they get more confident, they send me their videos without me even tracing them. At the beginning, it's always a bit of a struggle, a bit of rebellion. Oh, it looks awkward, but then, can you check my video? Can I just send you? Yeah, great. And that is also part of the process, because I don't believe vanity in fitness exists as such, like it is your bloody hard work you put in the body and mindset to get to certain level. So why not to document it?
Great. I agree with what you're saying, but I think the complete opposite. I think fitness is vanity, right? Like we're doing it for ourselves. That is like an aesthetic point of view, or it's a performance point of view, where it's a lifestyle kind of thing. We're doing it for ourselves, right? So it is vain, but it's not a negative thing. If anything, it's a positive.
There's, as always, there is different 2 levels and 2 layers to everything. Like, I get where you're coming from when it comes to vanity, because many people use their look and image that maybe is also the result of privilege that they had, like living in certain conditions, being born in a rich family, not having a husband and 5 kids, and being, on benefits, and like having all provided to them so that they could only focus on how they look, and then using and abusing it for monetary reasons. But I'm talking more about the general public. Like, it always starts with the physical goal and aesthetics, but why do we still do it? Yeah, we do like looking good, but what's deeper behind it? I want to look for the good, I want to look at the glass as half full, that people do it actually because that makes them feel good about themselves, which it makes them more confident, more like self-led, with better boundaries, being able to just create a better life, with confident life. And there is nothing wrong with confidence, but vanity, like, why do you do that? Just to rip someone off from another 10-pound program because you've been born in a certain, environment that enabled you this. I mean, it's a deeper probably subject for another podcast.
Yeah, Julia's passionate, so you can't tell everyone. Just to wrap that, because again, we could go on for hours and hours about this. If you could give yourself, your past self, some piece of advice about strength training or like a mistake that you've made yourself, what would it be?
Or if I could give beginners, maybe based on my old experience,
Yeah, past Julia. What would you tell past Julia?
and that's what I will also base on the experience with my clients, that the more beginners than advanced. Look at firstly quality of your movements. If you're not sure, what you do and how to perform an exercise, rather than avoiding them, just look for advice. Get a coach, whether it's a PT or an online coach. Look for videos. There is lots of stuff online that you can learn from, and don't be afraid of intensity, because intensity is what brings the change. As much as going to the gym and doing your 3x10 with a moderate weight is still challenging, it's not normally challenging enough to bring the results that you want. I promise you, your brain will switch off and tell you it's impossible much sooner than your muscles. Your muscles can actually bear more load than you think. So convince your brain for intensity.
I love that. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me.
Dream
Pleasure as
away.
always.
Talk to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.